In a video game, an NPC is a background character without a player behind them, so they rely on a pre-written set of instructions, following the same paths and repeating the same limited tasks indefinitely. A viral debate recently asked a question that felt like a challenge to modern identity. Are men actually NPCs? The argument suggests that what we call masculinity is often just a behavioral script, practiced until it feels like an instinct. You see it in the bizarre, trivial rules men use to guard their status. A grown man might refuse an ice cream cone because licking it feels like a breach of protocol, or reject a straw for his drink, or avoid a warm brownie because the indulgence seems soft. Even in social settings, the requirements are rigid. Look at the brunch uniform often seen in city centers, the mandatory dark shirt or turtleneck, the gold chain, and the specific boots. It's a collective signal that the individual has checked in with the group. These rules seem like minor social quirks, but they point to a deeper habit. When every choice, from what you eat to what you wear, is filtered through the fear of judgment, true free will is replaced by a performance. Men often operate inside a metaphorical 4x4 square box. It is a small, safe space where every action is pre-approved by other men, and any step outside that box invites immediate, sharp criticism. This is a sharp departure from the icons of the past, men who are still globally respected today precisely because they ignored those boundaries. Michael Jackson reached a level of cultural dominance few have ever matched, and he did it wearing rhinestones, makeup, and a single sequined glove. Prince commanded the world's attention with a flamboyant purple sequin jacket and an expressive stage presence that ignored traditional masculine limits, and his male audience loved him for it. Many men today choose to reject that level of self-expression. They trade their individuality for the safety of the group, ensuring they remain one of the boys, even if it means losing themselves in the process. Attempting to discuss these patterns often triggers an immediate defensive reaction. It's an internal mechanism that stops the conversation before any real analysis can begin. Instead of reflecting on the critique, many men pivot to well-worn responses, attacking a different group or criticizing women's trends to avoid looking at their own behaviors. This resistance is linked to alexithymia, which is a clinical term for the inability to identify or describe emotions. It's a state where feelings exist, but the words to name them have been lost. We teach this to boys from their earliest years. We tell them to be a man or never show weakness, effectively training them to ignore their own emotional data. This emotional absence isn't a defect of the individual, it's a learned behavior. It's a way to ensure that men never look too closely at the rules that govern their lives. This system doesn't need a leader to enforce it, because men police each other. The pressure to conform comes from friends, brothers, and colleagues. One photographer tried to break this cycle by bringing research on misogyny back to his lifelong friends, hoping to have a real conversation about how they treated the women in their lives. The response was swift and aggressive. They didn't argue the facts. They cursed him out and ended the friendship. To them, the conversation itself was a betrayal of the group. This policing often involves mocking any sign of vulnerability. When a man shares his mental health struggles, his peers might dismiss him by telling him to man up or focus on his income, valuing his toughness over his life. In the end, men are conditioned to value their status in the circle more than their own psychological safety. They would rather lose their friends and their peace than face the discomfort of change. When a man has spent decades silencing his own instincts to fit a group, that habit of suppression begins to erode his ability to recognize the humanity in anyone else. This was recently on display when a grieving mother posted about the death of her child. The comments were filled with men leaving antagonistic, repetitive remarks, showing no regard for her pain. They weren't reacting as individuals, they were following a set of pre-approved responses. Even in the face of death, the requirement to remain tough and unbothered outweighed their basic human empathy. In our schools, data shows a massive concentration of men pushed towards STEM careers, while very few are encouraged to pursue the arts. Tragically, as these rigid expectations rise, a number of young men taking their own lives has hit a historic high. By forcing men to reject their authentic passions and their capacity for empathy, society creates a path that often leads towards self-destruction. The current model of masculinity measures a man only by his ability to dominate and provide. It leaves no room for the actual human being underneath. To step out of that box requires the courage to sit with emotional discomfort and the strength to ignore the policing of the herd. Reclaiming vulnerability and empathy is how a man stops following the script. It is how he finally moves beyond being an NPC and becomes the author of his own life.